And welcome to another edition of the Batchelor News Report. I'm LA Batchelor. We thank you for joining us wherever you're listening. Want to get right to it, bringing my first guest of the evening. He is our residence chief, of course. He's the chief in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's Chief Virgil Green. And Chief, always a pleasure, my friend.
As always, LA, it's a pleasure joining you, my brother.
Yeah, man. Sorry for the delay.
Oh no,
Um,
you're all good.
Good. Well, I know you got a broadcast to do yourself, so
Yeah.
I want to start with something uh, brief, and that's policing during the holidays.
Okay.
And the conventional wisdom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of increasing crime happens during the holidays. People trying to feed their families and do all the things they need to do necessarily um, to really do just that. Um, Depression is a big thing, especially at the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
and parents, other people don't want to see their loved ones sad because they don't have whatever. Um, is it true that crime goes up? Maybe not so much violent crime, but shoplifting
Yeah.
and different types of crime.
Yeah, you do see an increase in property crimes. Such as people breaking into homes, or auto burglaries, or you may see in some areas an increase in shoplifting. And I wouldn't say it is an increase, but it's it could it be contributed to the holidays? Possible, but at the same time, and there's a lot of reports, LA and the listeners, that crime is down, but in some areas, crime is up. So it just kind of depends upon where you're at across the United States. But typically, you do see an increase in property crimes, and also you kind of see an increase in family disturbances, because families do come together around Thanksgiving and Christmas time and New Year's, and so you do see some increase in family disputes. But the main thing is that you definitely see an increase in people, drinking and driving.
Oh, well, I didn't even think about that, and that should have been the first thing to come to mind. Everybody
Yeah,
is merry and berry and thinking they're Superman or woman
yeah.
driving home. Um,
Well, you got a lot of businesses and company, a lot of places do Christmas parties, and so then you got New Year's parties. So that's a time where people don't think that they need to take a Uber or Lyft or just have another friend drive them. But we definitely do see an increase in DUIs around the holiday time.
do you see it in the terms of fatalities because of it?
You do. You definitely do. You see a lot of wrong way crashes where people are driving down the interstates the wrong way, a lot of head on collisions that result in many fatalities. And so, it's definitely something that a lot of states will be out enforcing, starting, the Thanksgiving holidays and running all the way through the New Year, just because of um, you know, the awareness that there are, like I mentioned before, a lot of parties, Christmas parties, holiday parties, and people don't. Ellie, it really kind of concerned me. I've said this on your podcast before, because I was heavily involved with Mothers Against Drunk Driving over a decade ago, and it is something that is easily preventable. People do not have to get behind the wheel of a car to drink and drive. If they are drinking, do it responsible and have somebody uh, take them home. And a decade ago, Ubers and Lyft were not as popular, but now it doesn't cost a whole lot to have a Lyft or Uber pick you up and take you home.
True. That's definitely true. I guess for some people, they get into the mindset of they're happy,
Yeah, that's true.
and they just feel like, okay, well, I'm happy. Everything's gonna be all right, and I only got to go 10 minutes to my mother's house or whatever the case may be,
Hmm.
and that 10 minutes could lead to them um, killing themselves or someone else.
Yeah, unfortunately, it can definitely be a deadly situation for that person, and definitely, the person that they, have an accident with. And unfortunately, um, more often than you see, uh, the person who is drinking and driving walks away from the accident, and they may go to the hospital and then they end up going to jail, but the other person doesn't walk away surviving the accident. So that's why I said it is 100% preventable. Everybody knows that if you're talking to somebody and they've had too much to drink, take the keys away from them. Do something responsible, because I think when people other people are held accountable, and they start being charged, then I think it's going to really to change the mindset of the public to say, let me take your keys. You don't need to drink and you don't need to be driving.
Talking with Chief Virgil Green here on the Batchelor News Report. Chief, um, what about policing during the holidays? Tell me if any difference. What's the differences? What's sort of the logistics that go into it?
Well, I mean, it's a slight difference. Really, it's not a much difference than normal patrolling, but you gotta, if you're in a city where you've got a lot of shopping uh, malls, or places for people to a large number of people to be at the shop, you're definitely going to see an increase in probably some activities in those shopping centers. So that's something that definitely calls for more police involvement. But typically you do see an increase in certain crimes, but and also I think again it just kind of depends upon what city you're in, how big the city you are, and what resources you have to provide extra manpower during the holiday season.
See, now I would have thought the answer would have been yes. Is pretty different because of um, not just the DUIs that increase, but also that parent, and it's usually someone that looks like us, that wants to run to Walmart and get that last truck for their
Hmm.
child. And you know what happens? I saw it first. No, you didn't. Big argument. So you don't see an increase in that type of thing when it comes to stores and people fighting over gifts.
No, LA probably maybe a decade, maybe 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, you saw that at Walmart, especially at Walmart, because of the Black Friday sales where they had a very limited number of TVs or limited number of toys or whatever it was that was a hot item that, you know, everybody lined up outside the store and they opened up the doors, and, you know, 200 people rushed in to get, maybe 100 flat screen TVs. Well, we saw a lot of cell phone videos where there was a lot of, people fighting over merchandise, and often, sometimes it led to arrest, sometimes it didn't lead to arrest. But I think Walmart, for one, definitely learned that they needed to do something different to protect the customers, and so now you can easily go online and you can order the same thing on a Black Friday sale uh, that you can go into the store and get. So I think that has definitely changed the mindset of people, where you don't see these people camping out at Best Buy and all these other stores where over years ago we definitely saw an increase in just that traffic of people running into these stores trying to pick up those last minute gift items, or just even on Black Friday. I over a decade ago, when I in Oklahoma City, I was over the one of the largest malls in the city, and it was total chaos. And so you definitely see there's definitely been a shift in that, to where the stores are doing a lot more much sooner, and not really pushing the Black Friday sales, that where law enforcement really had to increase police officers around those stores, just because of the traffic.
Well, and I've seen this. I've it's actually happened to me. Some of these companies can be brutally ruthless, where they're letting people go before the holiday, um, or right after. Do you worry about that? Do you see an increase in that type of stuff? Because if anything's gonna make you drink, is losing your job
Yeah.
at the holiday. We see what the government shutdown is going on. So what say you?
LA, and I definitely, with this government shutdown, and with people, losing their SNAP benefits, and now some of them are getting their SNAP benefits, and just overall, a lot of people have lost their jobs, whether you're in a federal workplace, or just, just anybody else. It's hard to tell how that will have an impact on policing, because again, um, just depends on where you're at across the country. Some agencies could see an increase, and some agencies could probably see the same level uh, of services that they have provided year after year. But again, there I think there's just a lot of uncertainty, LA, and it's kind of a to answer that question, yeah, you could see some things increase because of the economy and people losing their jobs. It just kind of depends on if you're in Baltimore, if you're in Philly, or wherever you're at, much more of an urban area where the unemployment rate is high, and people have lost their jobs, how they're going to provide, a Thanksgiving dinner, or more importantly, how they're going to provide, Christmas gifts. And so, um, I think it's definitely going to see the possibility of some increase in certain property crimes.
Talking with, of course, Virgil Green on the Batchelor News Report. Chief, one of the other things I wanted to talk about, and it seems as though these type of breaches happen when we as United States people, both civilians and law enforcement, let our guard down. Um, cyber attacks are happening on computers all the time, including law enforcement,
Hmm.
um, and cyber terrorists. Cyber theft, all of that. I mean, if I have to wake up in the middle of the night and see another commercial about somebody losing their house, and somebody just took it from right under them. So, what is law enforcement doing, in particular you, to fight? Because it's been out there for a while. So, what are you doing to fight that cyberspace, especially in the age of AI? Because AI could be very good, and
Yeah.
AI could be very criminal.
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, Ellie, I think on a local level, you don't see a lot of police departments that are fully engaged in that type of prevention of you know uh, ransomware, or where somebody has taking over, some, uh, IT system.
Right.
Uh, that is that you're going to see that much more on a state level. Now there have been cities across the country that have their systems have been hacked into, and you've got people who are holding their records as ransom, and you have some who pay, some who don't pay. But that really does not trickle down to a local police department. That is something that would definitely be handled on a state level and a federal level. Um,
So what's the protocol if it does happen hypothetically to your department? Then what?
well, if it happens to the department, then that is something that whatever safeguards or that the city has or don't have in place, then that's going to escalate up to involving a state law enforcement agency and then getting the FBI involved in it. But on a local police level, you're not going to see the police department really investigating that. You're going to have much more um, uh, people who deal with these type of crimes on a day-to-day basis, like I said, on the state level or the federal level.
So the first thing you would do is contact this,
Okay.
because I'm LA Batchelor. I want to steal. I sent the cryptic message to you, Virgil Green, the chief. I'm controlling your whole system here, 911, everything. If you want me to release it, you got to pay $10 million.
Well, and I say so. If I got a suspicious email from LA Bachelor and it's not something that I know, I probably wouldn't even click on it because it's going to be a spamware. So if I do see a suspicious email like that, I'm immediately notify our the IT department and say, here's a suspicious email. Now that IT department will have some things in place to where they can actually, you know, check that email to see if it is, some kind of, encrypted message that if you open it, it's going to, spamware is going to take over your computer, or if there is some type of ransom that is associated with that email. And so, now, yeah, they may say something to the police chief or and say, hey, we've got this here ransom going on. But now that's going to trigger local law enforcement to reach out to the state and to the federal law enforcement agencies to say, our uh, system has been compromised. Here's an email from this whoever these people are saying that they are holding our data as ransom. They're wanting $50 million, and so it pretty much shuts down the operation of any city because that group has access and control over what you used to have control over. So it definitely can cause some problems, and I think that's why in LA you these things do happen, but oftentimes LA and the listeners, you have some cities who they will rather pay the money because how there's really no way of tracking who that these individuals are. They could be in a whole nother country. You don't know where they're at because everything is communicated through online. And so that's why you do see some cities who just say, okay, here's $10 million, give us our records back, and now they've got to put in systems that will prevent another attack on their records.
Yeah, and that's fascinating because I had a local bank that I used to bank at that it happened to, and it wasn't. They clicked on the email. I don't know what it was, but when you get that email from the bank saying we wanted to be transparent and let you know that we had a hacker hack into our system, I would think it would happen locally in every business, including law enforcement. Um,
Well, LA, and I say this, and I think the one thing we really have to, because of AI and just the spamware that's going out. People really need to be cautious about clicking on things that you may not have clicked on before. Give an example. I was going through my emails today and I had an email from Sam's telling me that my Sam's membership, my payment did not process for my annual renewal of my Sam's membership. And I didn't click on it, but because it looked authentic, it looked like it was from Sam's. But then I went to my Sam's app and looked at my the last time I paid for my membership, which I kind of knew it wouldn't be due until 2026. But I went to my Sam's app, looked at my membership information, and saw where my membership is not coming up for renewal until June of 2026. So here's an email that looks very authentic, and a lot of people will just click on it and say, "Oh, wow, maybe it slipped my mind. So let me go ahead and try to pay to renew my membership." Now, wherever that email came from, now they've got your credit card information, and they can hack into your system, and you'll never know. And you're actually thinking, well, I thought I was paying my Sam's membership card, but you actually wasn't. So I think that's a whole nother conversation to have about people uh, clicking on emails that look like it's a legitimate email, but it's not. And oftentimes I've told people who have been scammed, if you call Sam's, call your bank, call whoever, just to verify that that email actually came from them before you become a victim of a scam.
Yeah. Final question. You mentioned the shutdowns over, the government reopened, the president signed it. Um, could be in its position again at the end of January. That's all
Correct.
they really extended it to.
Yeah.
Any concerns about rioting or anything? Not rioting, probably not the good word, but you know, tempers kind of getting a little heated from a enforcement standpoint, dealing with that.
I think the only thing that if the airline industry shuts down again, you definitely, that's, airport police will definitely see an increase in some type of, uh, disturbances at airports where, people are just unhappy about what's going on because they can't get to where they're going, or they're trying to get home, or they're trying to go somewhere else. So, I don't see that, foresee that if there is another government shutdown in the next, 60 days, that there is going to be some type of civil unrest or something that's going to trickle down to local law enforcement. I think even with this shutdown that went on for 43 days, we didn't see an increase in any type of local criminal activity, and even at the airports. So again, you know, I think people are, aware of what's going on, but people are being very calm about it. And I just saw, before coming on with you, where a flight out of Phoenix was diverted to Kansas City because it had 4 congressmen on there, and an unruly lady had to be taken off the airport in Kansas City, and the flight went on to D.C. So I think the anger, LA, and the listeners is definitely going to be taken out on the politicians more than anything if they can't get their act together.
Yeah, I agree, and they deserve it
Yeah,
because
they
they're the
do,
ones that
man.
are doing it.
Just
Um,
listening to the recent deal about the Senate, how they put in some kind of legislation that gives them more money, that gives that if somebody have access to their data, that they could turn around and sue the government. And I think the more information comes out about that, I think it's going to really, there's going to be a lot of senators who will have to answer as to why they voted on those things, especially, someone like Cory Booker and you know, the Reverend out of Georgia, and others, as to why did they, if they did vote for that to move forward.
Yeah. Before you go, Chief, talk about your show, sir.
Yeah. So again, always LA. Thank you for letting me come on your podcast, and I am one of the co-founders and hosts of You and the Law podcast. We air live every Thursday afternoon, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and tonight is going to be part 4 of a series of podcasts that I've got a guest coming on talking about the 11 fatal flaws of law enforcement leadership. And so it's going to be another, um, impactful conversation about leadership in policing. And so, again, you can find You and the Law podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. So if you follow LA Batchelor, follow You and the Law podcast on YouTube, subscribe, and like and share. And it's always good to again, it's always good to come on and have your support. And again, just thank you for the years of support that you have given to You and the Law podcast.
Well, thank you, and keep doing what you're doing. We need, brothers out there are gonna speak um, truth to power, and
Yeah.
you being a police chief, you recognizing. I say this all the time. You recognizing that you're black first, and you're a
Oh yeah.
law enforcement second. So,
Yeah.
Chief, I appreciate you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right,
And
LA.
if I don't speak with you by Thanksgiving, you have a great Thanksgiving, sir.
All right, you too. You and your family as well.
All
All
right.
right. Have a good night.
Chief Virgil Green, check out his show. You can catch it on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere I'm sure that you can download a program, you can see it there. Take a quick break, get to our next guest. Stay tuned.
Are you struggling with losing weight, high blood pressure, cholesterol, constipation, constant coughing, tight chest, bad breath, sore mouth or throat, joint pains, ulcers, bladder problems, and many more? Then you need to try Drink to Shrink. Drink to Shrink is an all-natural and organic herbal health wellness drink. It can transform your overall health in many areas. Drink to Shrink is by far one of the most affordable weight loss products that keeps you out of the gym, with 4 easy steps to help you reach your weight loss goals. For more info, call Ronell Baker at 276-806-8699 or on Facebook at Drink to Shrink.
Welcome back to the broadcast. I want to bring in my guest.
Are you
Always a
struggling
pleasure
with
to have the
losing weight, high
doctor
blood?
on. He is Dr. Wilmer J. Leon III. And Doc, pleasure to have you on as always, sir.
Well, good evening to you and to your audience. And as always, man, I appreciate the invitation.
Rocking that Hampton sweater.
Well, gotcha. As a Hamptonian,
Yeah. Go Pirates.
always.
I want to start obviously with the shutdown is over. The country's back up. First of all, winners and losers in this, because there are some Democrats are like, as you heard the chief mention, some of those that said we want to reopen the government. We're not going to get a better deal than what was on the table. And some Democrats are like, okay, well, why'd you do it in the first place? And then others are like, it's okay, we reopening it, and America knows who's in power in all three, in the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and Republicans will be held accountable for not pushing even addressing the HCA. I mean the Affordable Health Care Act, because Doc, really, the Democrats that voted to reopen said, "Well, we have a vote." Well, having a vote and getting enough numbers to help get your way is two different things.
The position that the Democrats took at the beginning of this shutdown 43 days ago was a principled position. They had very little leverage. As the Affordable Care Act subsidies were scheduled to expire at the end of the year, they had very little leverage and even less trust of the Republicans. So for them to take the position that they took was a reasonable position. And the approach that they took was a reasonable approach. And you and I talked while, when this first thing jumped off, and I said one of the things that we're going to have to see is whether or not Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have the guts to hold the line and see this thing through. What I did not anticipate was Schumer and Jeffries had the guts to see it through. What Schumer really didn't have was the leadership ability to hold his caucus together. So you've got, I guess it's 7 Democrats and 1 independent.
Yeah, Angus King.
Who are labeled as moderates. I think a couple of them aren't running for re-election, and a couple of the others aren't up for re-election in the next cycle. What they did makes absolutely no sense. And to listen to, now I'm forgetting the woman's name, female senator, might have been Jean Shaheen. Jean Shaheen.
Out in New Hampshire.
Right.
Yeah.
Say this was the best deal on the table. Well, Jean Shaheen, if you thought that, then why were you even at the table? You had no business being in the room, because you obviously don't understand anything about leverage, anything about negotiating. You should have realized you were in a circumstance beyond your capabilities, and you should have dismissed yourself from the room. Because I don't see, when you look at the numbers, and Jean, because I know she watches this show, LA, so I'm talking to her directly because I know she's a big fan of yours. You had a huge floor mopping the previous Tuesday with the Republicans in the off-year elections. You had, when you looked at the poll numbers, America was on your side by almost 10 points. America was holding the Republicans accountable for the shutdown, not blaming Democrats. So you had the numbers.
Yeah.
You had the momentum. And look, you had the holiday coming, Thanksgiving. And what happens the day after Thanksgiving? Black Friday. The biggest opportunity for a lot of companies in this country to make or break their year is on Black Friday. And nobody wanted to go into Thanksgiving with government employees missing their 3rd straight complete paycheck. And the Trump administration, with the economy being in as bad a condition as it is, damn sure didn't want Black Friday to be in jeopardy. So you had everything, at least at that moment, you had everything on your side. and you folded.
Yeah, it's almost like America said, "We'll take one for the team."
You
Well,
folded.
yeah.
Why? Tim Kaine.
And I wanted
What?
to
You were a lousy vice presidential nominee. I've met him a couple times. He's a nice enough guy. But damn, Tim Kaine, what in the world were you not thinking?
and I want to kind of fly through some of the people who voted to reopen. Tim Kaine, especially, Doc, when Virginia just exploded.
Tim Kaine, you wiped the floor with the Republicans the week before. You even had Jay Johnson, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
The guy, Mr. Shoot 'em and I want to see their kids die emails or text messages. Even he won. And you folded like bad origami or bad lawn furniture. What in the world? Tim, come on, man.
Another one that voted for it was Dick Durbin, and Dick Durbin needs to go somewhere. He's had too many controversies around him anyway. But talk about him.
Well, I rather talk less about him and more about Illinois.
Yeah.
Man, your folks in Chicago are suffering. Folks in Chicago need this. And you like Tim Kaine and oh man, go ahead, man. Move on to somebody.
Yeah, you mentioned Gene Shaheen. Now, this one, to me, this guy, Doc, is going to turn out to be the next. Please help me with the senator. Joe Manchin. And that's John Fetterman
from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, he's going to. The Democrats are going to remember that vote and a lot of things that he's said and done since he's been in office, and he's going to lose. He's going to lose. I don't know. I don't know if he'll lose because and Republicans take that seat, that Senate seat, or loses to a more progressive Democrat.
Well, my dog is a more progressive Democrat than him. I mean and my dog isn't even a Democrat. That guy has been nauseating since he got there. And I think he will be replaced by a Democrat. And he needs to be replaced.
So they keep the seat.
Oh man, yeah, they keep the seat, but they got to get a real Democrat in it. And I'm not a Democrat. I mean, but I'm just saying, they've got to get a Democrat in that seat because that guy is. But now, but let me. It's possible. I'm not going to say probable because you can never depend on the Democrats to do the right thing. But it is possible that with this vote, they lost the battle, but they can still win the war. Because one of the things that has come out of this is the cost of healthcare premiums is now at the forefront. Unfortunately, now we're back to Jeffrey Epstein all day, every day, Jeffrey Epstein. But beyond that, now the rubber's about to meet the road. And when you listen, now that people are having to register for their for their health care, and they're actually now doing the math, and they're finding out, depending on their health situation, some folks, we had a friend of ours was here earlier today who said that her monthly premium is going up $90 a month. I was watching MSNBC, and one of the Republican members of Congress had a virtual town hall a couple of days ago, and this woman called in, and I want to say that her premium was going up like 20 times.
Wow.
Because I think she has cancer, and her husband has Alzheimer's or has some debilitating disease, and they only make $48,000 a year.
Mm.
And so this was last night or the night before I heard this on MSNBC. And so they played this woman calling into this town hall, and she was saying, really, we only have two options: bankruptcy or early death.
Mm.
Bankruptcy or early death.
That is insane.
And we're supposed to be the richest country in the world. We're supposed to have the strongest economy in the world. We're supposed to be where everybody in the world wants to flock to because of our freedoms and because of our liberty and because of all the American dream. And you have the working poor in this country. Because a lot of people want to dismiss this as, well, these are just impoverished people. These are just poor people. These are primarily Black people and Latinos that are the Affordable Care Act was for Black people and for Latinos. No, or nay. Most of these folks are white folks. And most of these folks are working poor that are literally having to make decisions because at the end of there's more month at the end of the money. And so every month they've got to make really hard decisions about sending their children to bed hungry, and the parents don't eat. And this isn't hyperbole. This is real talk. This is Donald Trump's America. And I'm not blaming it on him because it was happening long before Donald Trump, but he is the one in office now.
Right. I wanted to ask you real quick about two senators, and Senator Cortez is in Las Vegas. Senator Hassan, I believe, if I'm messing up her last name, please correct me, of New Hampshire. Start with New Hampshire. With her being so nervous and being one of the Democrats to vote yes to reopening, and her bringing up, and I've heard some pundits talk about how the electoral vote is so important there. With a state that small, the bigger picture for me is they need to change that, number one. And as it relates to Senator Cortez in Las Vegas, in Nevada, what is Nevada? Is it a blue state? Is it a purple state? Speak to both of those, please.
Well, that's an interesting question. I think you would now categorize Nevada as a purple state. Because it vacillates. this one this one is hard for me to analyze because it just makes no sense.
Right.
It makes no sense. So in Nevada, I know it depends on, and this is why I say it's to a great degree a purple state, because it depends on where you are in the state.
True. I like that. I agree with that.
Yeah, it depends on where you are in the state. So this one made this, when I listened to Gene Shaheen's explanation, and I'm trying to be as analytical as I can be. When I listened to her, it just made no sense.
Yeah.
I mean, look, nobody wants anybody to suffer. And, you know, I got paid last week. So my paycheck, I was not affected directly by the shutdown, by the furlough, by the firings. But looking at the bigger principle here and looking at what's looming at the end of December, again, I thought the Democrats took a principled position. Now, we can debate whether they were just opportunistic and stumbled upon this as a valid political issue. We and that could be a discussion worth having. But they were on the right side of the issue. No matter what their motivations were for championing the issue, they're on the right side of the issue. And they had all the momentum on their side. And you know, I kept waiting for the numbers to shift. I think I said on this show, when this thing first happened and you asked me how was it going to go, I said, well, we got to wait to see what happens when people miss their first full paycheck. And they did, and the numbers really didn't shift. And then they missed their second full paycheck, and the numbers really didn't shift. So so that told me that, at least at the time that they had to make the decision, that the Democrats were winning the argument in the court of public opinion. And so if you're winning, why don't you want to keep winning? Why did you throw in the towel when by all accounts you were winning? And you were on the right side of the issue. And if you extrapolate it out, if they had held the line and forced Trump to the table, that would have been an accomplishment that very well would have manifested itself very positively going forward. And I interpreted some things as cracks in their coalition. When Trump called Thune and said, I need you to overturn the filibuster, and Thune told him no. That's something that the president wasn't used to hearing. No, Mr. President, that's a bad idea. That's a short-term victory for long-term risk. And so then he goes to Muppet Mike, and he says to Muppet Mike, Muppet Mike, I need you to talk to Thune about this filibuster. And Muppet Mike said, no, Mr. President, that's a bad idea. So the fact that Trump made the call to Thune in the first place said to me that was a sign he was looking at the numbers. He realized he had backed himself into a corner, and he was looking for a way out, trying to save face, trying to stay buff and trying to brace up and all of that. And they told him, no, man, Can't do it. Not gonna happen. I don't understand why Gene Shaheen and all them others didn't see that as the beginning of weakness and then seize on that like a shark that senses blood in the water.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you turn the heat up.
Yep.
But, and final point on this, Thune promises a vote in the Senate. I don't think that language made it into the bill, so they're really trusting Thune, which you shouldn't do, and not so much because he's not reputable. I don't know if he is or if he isn't, but the guy that he's beholden to isn't. And so now you got Mike Johnson saying, well, I don't know if we're going to have a vote. Well, I don't want to make that commitment.
Yeah.
But the Republicans have no alternative plan.
They never have.
So now I've heard some rumblings about a bipartisan bill that will reinstate or continue the subsidies, but there'll be a salary cap. I don't know that they've determined what the number is going to be, but whether a $300,000, $400,000 annual salary, then I think the number is negotiable, which is a sensible thing depending on what the number turns out to be. But putting a cap on that, if you're making a couple $100,000 a year, okay, that can make sense. And then another element I think is how the credits are being recognized. And I'm not quite sure I understand all the details in that, but from what I understand, they want to be sure that either the credit or a subsidy that is provided actually goes to the taxpayer and doesn't go to the insurance company. And then they've got to figure out a way to bring costs down. But anyway, that's what I understand is where we are. This made no sense, man.
Yeah, it didn't. And we're talking with Dr. Wilmer J. Leon. I started the conversation with, why would you trust the Republicans anyway?
You can't.
That's because they're giving you a vote. They guarantee you a vote. Doesn't mean that they're going to go with it anyway, that you're going to have enough votes anyway. The House, I know Jeffries wanted, I think, a 3-year extension of the ACA.
Mm-hmm.
And the Senate was talking about 1. I don't know. But you got to have enough votes to be able to do it. So that's like me telling you, yeah, I promised that I'll give you something, knowing good and well I'm not going to deliver on that promise. And like you said, the man behind it, the reason why you don't trust it, because the man behind of it has no integrity. And I just want to make this comment and get your thought, Doc. You said people don't want to see people suffer. I think Donald Trump is the exception.
Oh, you're right.
How do you take away SNAP, and by the way, people aren't talking about Medicaid enough and Medicare enough. Take away that. 2 judges tell you you have the money, do what's right, and he appeals it. I mean, if that's not an evil person, then I don't know what it is. And then just to follow a question with that, I asked you, I think last week, that is this president making the same mistake as Joe Biden? Because everybody under Joe Biden and people were saying, look, I can't afford this, and inflation's up, and he's saying the polls are wrong. I know what's going on in people's household. Trump is doing the same thing, and he's going to sink his own ship like that.
Absolutely. What Biden kept saying was, I don't understand why people don't get the message. We're talking about the economy. We're explaining this to them, and they don't get it. Well, because what you were telling them wasn't being reflected at their dinner tables. It wasn't being reflected when they opened their refrigerators. It might be working in your house, but it wasn't working in everybody else's house. So the analogy there is, there's a power outage in every house on the block but yours. And you're sitting there with lights on in the kitchen having dinner, and you're saying, I don't understand why everybody's complaining. The lights are on. I don't know why people are so unhappy. The lights are on.
Right.
Donald Trump, I mean, there's really nothing new I can say about him. You'd like to say that you'd like to try to put it in some type of political analysis, but he's not even really that good of a politician. So it's just, he is exactly what Lindsey Graham said he was: a racist, narcissistic, selfish bigot. That's not me. That's Lindsey Graham.
Yeah.
Uh,
You can see the comment
Yeah.
come in. You can respond, please.
Well, folks with disabilities, may very well be dropped. And depending on the disability and one's ability to be gainfully employed, they might, if they're not technically just dropped, they might wind up having to drop because they can't afford the premium. So either way, you are a person in need of health care, and you're being pushed out of the market, either because they're dropping you or because your needs, they've priced your premiums to a point to where you can't afford them. And see, one of the other things that's happening here that I haven't heard get a lot of discussion is when they first designed the Affordable Care Act, one of the things that they were expecting was that younger people, I think there was a requirement that after the age of 26 or whatever it was, you had to get insurance.
Right. I think it was. You could stay on your
parents'
insurance right up to 26. Yep.
And then you had to get insurance. So they were anticipating, or they did their math, and the numbers told them that that the younger people who had to get insurance, had to pay for insurance, but didn't necessarily need it, they would offset a lot of the older Americans. They would offset some of their expenses. But then I think that requirement was found to be unconstitutional. So then a lot of those folks that they were anticipating to carry the weight were no longer forced to carry the weight. And now, people are living longer. So the structure of the current system is designed to fail, which goes back to, I think, a question that I raised with you the last time I was on, people need to really sit and ask themselves, what is government supposed to do?
Yeah.
And if you can go to Norway, and if you can go to Sweden, and if you can go to Denmark, if you can go to London or England and have a system where people don't have to pay monthly premiums for their health care, then there's something wrong with this one when so many people can't afford it. What is government supposed to do? Another aspect of this is what you're finding, people's homeowners insurance is going through the roof. No pun intended, because of climate change and these catastrophic weather events that we're having. Towns are getting decimated, homes are getting decimated, hurricanes, tornadoes, hailstorms.
Well, Trump said you just get a 50-year loan. Just get a 50-year.
Look at what that point of idiocy actually does. Your home, for most people, is your greatest asset.
Right.
And in terms of intergenerational transference of wealth, your home is the one thing that hopefully you're able, when you pass, to pass on to your children, and your home has appreciated in value from the price you paid for it. So now your progeny has an asset that, if they're smart, they can use to build upon for the next generation.
Real simple. Then he said, well, that's only 10 years more than a 40. I can't even say it with a straight face with him, man. It's just, he is beyond belief. If you could respond to that comment there too, sir.
Well, it goes still along with why was the 30-year? So folks, go back and look at why the 30-year loan was created in the first place. When you look at how long people were expected to work and then get a pension. So you've done away with pensions. Now you want to create this 50-year loan product. What you're doing is you've come to realize that your economy can really no longer support the standard of living that Americans have become used to. So instead of solving the problem, you just kick the can down the road with these newfangled products that cover up the problem. They don't solve the problem. Another example of this is that what's that? What they call that mortgage? Where you borrow on the equity of the house and you don't have to pay it back. What's that? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank on the name of the thing.
Trying to think of it.
But nobody's asking the reverse mortgage. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
The reverse mortgage. But nobody's asking the question, why do you need a reverse mortgage in the first place? If you've worked, if you're gainfully employed and you've worked till it's time to retire, you should have enough money to live on. But now you've done away with the pension. And you replace the pension with the 401k.
Which are down, by the way.
So what you find now is you have a whole generation of people where there's still month at the end of the money. So you say, here's what you do. We'll create a product where a financial product where you borrow on the equity in your house. And then you can choose to either repay it, or if you don't want to, you don't have to repay it. You die, and then we'll sell your house and take back what was left on the loan. Once again, the transference of intergenerational wealth.
Right.
You've got 3 kids, you got a $500,000 house. The kids think the house is paid for. And the kids think, oh, we're going to have this pot of money that we're going to be able to work with. And then you go to find out, oh, you know what? Dad had to take out a reverse mortgage. We got nothing. Oh man, it's a formula for catastrophe for generations out.
With that being said, final 2 questions for you, Doc. What do you think of Trump's idea of giving that money straight to Americans, not the insurance companies? Let them go on the free market and then buy their insurance. Number 1. Number 2, he keeps putting his foot in his mouth where he said, we don't have the brightest, basically, I'm paraphrasing, don't have the brightest people in terms of skills in this country. So he's a big fan of HB1 and a lot of his MAGA people are pissed. They're basically saying, oh, we're stupid. We can't learn. We can't train. We can't figure it out. You got to bring in these people with all these visas and stuff, because that side of the group are still, I mean, they're basically against immigration, whether it be legal or illegal. So what's your thoughts on him and the fact that he talks about HB1 and wanting to use that to bring in the brightest and the best here in this country?
Well, to your insurance question, I would say fix the system. I'm a systems guy, I guess. Yeah. Fix the system. Fix the healthcare system. When Barack Obama when Senator Obama was running for president, he talked about healthcare reform. That was one of the big tenets of his platform, one of the big planks in his platform. Healthcare reform. We didn't get healthcare reform because the insurance companies went to him the first day he sat at the Resolute desk and told him, homie, no, you continue down this road and this will be your only term. So they came up with what? Health insurance reform. The Affordable Care Act, to its credit, did provide the opportunity for more people to get health insurance. It did not reform the system. It did not bring down the cost of health care. It was really a benefit for the insurance companies because more people were able to get insurance. It did not reform the system, the delivery of care to people. It just gave more people access to the broken system through insurance. So Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're happy. Kaiser, they're happy. All these other Cigna and all these other multi-billion-dollar healthcare companies, they're happy. But it did not reform the system. Then to your question about the visa issue.
Yeah, the HP one.
When the people come out and say, "Oh, you're saying we can't learn, you're saying we're stupid," no, what you're saying is you're not trained. It's not that you're stupid and can't do the job, it's that you're not trained for the job. And when you deindustrialize your economy, see, you got to go back, you got to connect these dots. Shameless plug for my podcast. You've got to connect
but Doc, just to that point, I know Amazon spends the most in this country in terms of bringing people over visas. I think Meta was second, and a lot of the jobs are like beginner computer jobs. They're not mathematics. They're not aerospace. They're not all these different things.
But look, that you're taking me right to my next point. How much does it cost to bring over that person from India? How much does it cost to bring in that person from China versus how much does it cost to pay an American? So one of the reasons why Bezos and all of these folks are championing this visa issue is because they save money on the labor side. So their profit goes up on the labor side. But again, when you deindustrialize your economy, when you're not manufacturing anything, then you don't need to train your people because you're training them for jobs that aren't there.
Right.
And now you are having foreign company. You're trying to entice. What is one of the big things Trump's trying to do? Entice foreign companies to come in to the United States and build plants here. But the problem that these companies are running up against is they can't find the skilled workforce that they need to do these technical jobs. What's the company in Taiwan, the chip manufacturer,
Timu or
no, TSMC.
Yeah.
So TSMC during the Biden administration, they had agreed to, because the United States, they claimed that China was going to invade Taiwan, and they wanted to be sure that if China invaded Taiwan, that TSMC, the chip manufacturer, would still be able to manufacture chips. So they said, why don't you come here to Arizona and build a factory, and you can make the chips here. So TSMC says, oh, okay, we'll do that. So they come over, they start building the plant, and what they find out is we don't have any workforce. Because the type of chips that TSMC is manufacturing, highly, scientific and so on and so forth. Highly technical, the type of chip that TSMC is making. And so TSMC said, you know what? We gotta abandon this project. Mm-hmm. Then you got Trump convincing South Korea to come build a plant. What was it, in Kentucky?
Georgia.
And then they go in and they arrest all the people that are in there.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
I guess what we're saying the same thing. All I'm saying is that these Bezos and these guys are utilizing and taking advantage of that visa, but sure, they're not bringing high tech people. They're just bringing jobs.
That yes and no, because Bezos isn't the only one. You have a number of like Sun Microsystems and some of these other Silicon Valley computer engineering, I'll just use that as a general term, companies that are bringing engineers, computer engineers in, again, from India, from China, from all over the world, because they can bring them in and pay them less.
Right.
And a lot of these it's like folks that are on the AI now, with AI being the big deal, right? So a lot of these engineers that are working on the AI stuff and working on the chat GPT stuff and all that kind of stuff. No, these are folks with real big brains, but they're foreign. A lot of them are foreign because you can bring them in and pay them less.
Yeah. Sort of like baseball did with the start of bringing people in from the Dominican, real talented people,
Right.
but you can pay them on the cheap because they don't know no better.
You
And,
at least through their first contract.
right.
But now even that is changing, because now you not only do you have the scouts from the teams going there, but now you've got the agents that are there as well that are changing that dynamic. But I just want to reiterate, it's not that we're stupid. It's not that we can't do it. We're not being trained to do it, because we have decided years ago to offshore a lot of these jobs and deindustrializing your economy. When you can't have an economy that doesn't make anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It doesn't. That's not a sustainable model.
Right.
And that's what we're finding out now, that the model that we constructed is not sustainable.
Great point. Doc, before you go, let people know about connecting the dots and, of course, your work on XM satellite.
Gary, your mother went to Hampton. See, Gary, I knew there was something about you that was cool. Your mother went to Hampton. So connecting the dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon on Monday through Friday from 3 to 4 Eastern, and that's on YouTube. Just go to Connecting the Dots with Dr. Wilmer Leon on YouTube. And Tom Porter is going to be my guest tomorrow. Dr. David Wallaloo was my guest today. We've had some very, very good analysis. This Saturdays from 11 to 2 Eastern on Sirius XM 126, Inside the Issues with Wilmer Leon on Sirius XM 126. This weekend and next weekend, this weekend and Thanksgiving are going to be best of shows. I'm going to have breakfast with my son on Saturday, so I won't be on live on Saturday. Got to go see the big fella down in Hampton. But anyway, y'all check it out. It's phenomenal analysis, and it's not me, it's my guests. Phenomenal analysis. So check it out. I think you'll be very pleased if you do.
Yeah, phenomenal op-eds, phenomenal work, phenomenal talk show host, Doc, as always.
Hey, thanks, man.
Appreciate you. And if I don't talk to you before, then happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Same to you and yours. And man, if you don't talk to me between now and then something went wrong.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
Dr. Wilmer J. Leon, of course, on the line, talking politics and everything else in between. Take a break and get to our guests patiently waiting on the line and talk about the underserved people who are who need health care, whether it be private or in-home health care. Caregivers are getting burnt out. Caregivers are going all over the place. Caregivers are getting other jobs. And we're going to touch on that in just a bit on the Batchelor News Report. Stay tuned.
pressure, cholesterol, constipation, constant coughing, tight chest, bad breath, sore mouth or throat, joint pains, ulcers, bladder problems, and many more, then you need to try Drink to Shrink. Drink to Shrink is an all-natural and organic herbal health wellness drink. It can transform your overall health in many areas. Drink to Shrink is by far one of the most affordable weight loss products that keeps you out of the gym, with 4 easy steps to help you reach your weight loss goals. For more info, call Ronell Baker at 276-806-8699 or on Facebook at Drink to Shrink.
Welcome back to the show. We thank you for just want to bring in my guest, very patiently waiting on the line to talk about a field that we both are in, and that is caregiving. And to talk about it is Janice Hines. And Janice, always a pleasure to have you on.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So I wanted to have you on. We talked about Alzheimer's last week and the fact that the signs, the warning signs for people who go through and you don't know what's going on, you have to be trained. Now, there are a lot of caregivers who happen to be RNs or CNA, certified nurses assistants, or just caregivers with training on taking care of the elderly, the handicapped, and people with mental illness and things of that nature. Define the difference between them, because, like I said, you can be a caregiver but a registered nurse. You could be a caregiver and be a CNA, or you could be a caregiver without any of those alphabets in front of your name, if you will. So talk about the difference.
The difference is being a caregiver as a nurse, you're basically being paid to be a caregiver as a part of your job. The difference in being a CNA, you're still getting paid to do your job. But to be a caregiver in the home, that is on you. You're not getting paid. You're taking that responsibility to care for that patient, for that individual, your loved one. So that's really the big difference. As a caregiver, I wasn't getting paid. I took care of my mother to the best of my ability. Where if I had asked for help, maybe through a nurse or aide, I would have to pay them. I would have to pay them. And during that time, I was not financially able to do that. So I was basically on my own.
Let's talk about the ones that the third one you mentioned, which is you're taking care of your loved one because A, they don't have insurance, or B, they just don't have anybody that can come in the house, like you said, that's affordable. What are some of the basic needs that loved one would need without mental illness? Let's say they're physically incapable. What are some of the basic needs they need on a daily basis to live a normal, healthy rest of their life?
On a daily basis, they would have to be fed, have to have someone give them a bath, change their clothes, depending on whether or not they're wearing depends or not, change their depends. Because they're not able to take care of themselves. So they would need someone to do all that for them.
We got some comments coming through. I'll share with you in a minute. There are some things, though, even if they're physically incapable, that may come up Like if they have to urinate in a bag, the name of it is escaping me right now, catheter, or they can't eat and swallow on their own. Talk about the training and the understanding you have to have in those situations.
So basically, the training I had, the individual, I would have to be trained how to empty the bag, how to attach the bag after taking the individual to the hospital. They would teach me those things because that is what I would have to do. Because the person that, depending on that situation, they may be able to do it themselves, but if not, that was the responsibility of the caregiver.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I want to share some of these comments with you, and you can comment on there. You can comment. Can you see the question on the screen?
I see.
Says the primary caregiver is from his is from somewhere I can't see, but she was a nurse in her country, and that's another thing when people come here and they're nurses, and because of the way the country's set up, they have to take a lesser job. That's one of the frustrations that I hear from some people who work in retirement homes, hospice, private homes, where they're not doing some of the things they're capable of doing, trained to do, and it's frustrating.
I agree. It's very frustrating, but you have to seek help to learn how to do those things without becoming frustrated. Because it's not an easy job taking care of someone, especially if you're not sure. You do your homework, you do research, you ask people who they should talk to, you look for different resources to ask for help, to teach you how to do those things that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, Gary says his caregiver is from Nicaragua, and she gets frustrated because there are some restrictions that go into place, and it of course varies from state to state, but there are some restrictions. Let's talk about caregiver burnout. One of the things I hear all the time, and I think the theme tonight has been people are living longer. So when people are living longer, you have more people to take care of. And when you have more people to take care of, then let's say you're working in a private setting, your patient list goes from 10 to 20, um, with no with the same routine, with the same hours, with the same pay. Is that something that you come across with people? um, One of the reasons why they leave the profession is because they're overworked and overwhelmed.
Yes, um, individuals who are in nursing facilities, that is that is one of the hardest jobs because you're shorthanded. You don't have enough people to give each patient the care that they need, they deserve. So let's say example would be you're a CNA and you have 10 to 15 patients. You can't do 10 to 15 patients. You can't do it, but at some point it becomes frustrating. It becomes hard. You become irritated because it's just too much for one person versus having two people with 10 people each, then they can switch out or help each other work as a team, making it easier on the CNAs. So that is one of the biggest issues I've noticed in nursing facilities. Not enough help, or they're not, in their mind, they're not getting paid enough to do their job for so many participants. It's just them. It's too much for them.
I'm talking with Janice Hines here on the Batchelor News Report. Janice, another thing I've learned is I've been in this position from time to time in different states, and different states have different certifications and different requirements, which is, again, one of the things I hear that's frustrating to someone. Like, I lived in North Carolina. Well, North Carolina is not as strict as Maryland in a lot of ways, and I can attest to that. Have you dealt with that? Do you hear that as well in terms of all of the restrictions or lack thereof, based on state to state?
Well, to be honest, I'm really only familiar with North Carolina. So I can't compare or know because I just know what's going on with North Carolina with their restrictions or laws versus, in regards to being a caregiver.
Yeah, having worked in both states, um, it's some of the facilities are ready to hire if you have the experience. Others, they, like, couldn't believe I had to go through uh, the CPR training in North Carolina. And in Maryland, you can get the CPR online real quick. You don't have to go do the class with the dummy and all that kind of stuff. So there are differences from state to state.
Okay, with that, you can do the same in North Carolina. I was able to get my, uh, let's see, I was able to get mine online versus going in. So it can be done in North Carolina.
Okay. I probably skipped that and didn't hear that at that time, but I digress. But one of the biggest complaints I seem to hear and get, and it is a pet peeve of mine, is the facility. The when you work at a facility, whatever kind, there are protocols that should be in place. If you were accused of abusing a patient, or the schedules all mixed up, when you go to follow protocol, there's no protocol in place. Matter of fact, you got a lot of people, I'm sure you work with them, that are more concerned about punching in, punching out, getting that check than actually doing that slogan, teamwork makes the dream work. They don't care about that. They
Right.
come in, and when that happens, it leads to abuse of some of the patients there. And when you complain, there's nothing done. Those type of the inmates are running the asylum type of places, I want no part of. I feel sorry for those patients, but I want no part of the lack of your job.
I'm agreeing.
Go ahead. I'm losing. Janice, are you there? see if we can get her back on to close out the show. Gary, you talked about that. I'm sure it helps to be blessed and fortunate to have your own caregiver uh, when you're
Yeah.
in a situation, but there are a lot of bad ones out there.
All right. Like, I've been in California for 40 years. I've only had one bad attendant in 40 years. One. And
Wow.
that's because if you interview them correctly and you know what you're looking for, you will not get bad attendance.
Yeah.
Most disabled people are not trained to interview not trained to interview attendants. So they get into situations, they get into bad situations.
Yeah.
People borrowing money, people borrowing clothes, people going to do their laundry. I can tell you 1,000 stories about bad attendants.
Yeah. We got Janice back on. Did you hear the question about inmates running the asylum? There's no order there. There's no protocol. It's just chaos, and that's a pet peeve of mine. Give me the tools to use to be successful. Um, if I see something wrong, they always say if you see something wrong, you report it. Well, you report it, then there's some kind of grudge going on. Those are the places I like to avoid working at.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm only familiar with being a caregiver and nursing facilities. So I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, but you telling me you never work with people that weren't doing their job?
Oh yes, you're right. I have, and it's frustrating because it's on you. It's double work. It's triple work for you, and because you may become frustrated, you have to rethink your situation as to who can I talk to receive help to help me provide these patients with the best care possible. So I have experienced that. And it's not a good feeling because you're doing your part.
Right.
You're carrying that load, and other people are not doing that.
And you have absent bosses and things of that nature. Incompetence we haven't really touched on a lot either. I know people that are under care that these agencies send to take care of these people, and they don't have any real experience. They don't really know what they're doing, and that could be very dangerous for a loved one.
I agree because they have not been properly trained, they can cause harm to the patient not knowing what to do, how to care for them. That makes a difference.
Makes a huge difference. Um, because, like I said, the danger in trying to take care of those folks when you know they don't know what they're doing. And I've been in situations myself where the agency sends me somewhere to do a job, and one guy had a trachea done, and I had never done any tubing, right? Um, and he got upset and called his sister or brother, whoever it was, and I was removed. Then to me, that makes me look bad and makes the company look bad because at the end of the day, in some of these organizations, some of these companies, they need bodies. They just need bodies, people who can go in and clean for the people, like you said. If they can't wash themselves, the basic human needs. But you know, other people, you need one of those lifts. I've worked with that before. So there's some big differences in terms of what people know, what the agencies are sending them out to these particular jobs.
I agree, and it's not fair to the individuals who are receiving care because they're put in a dangerous situation where they may be mistreated mentally, physically, or emotionally because these individuals have not been provided the training that they need to
Yeah.
help these individuals.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest thing that will be positive in this industry? Because, like you said, people either get burnt out or agencies paying them $15 an hour when they can go and work another job for $22 an hour. So they leave. So what can you say positive about bringing back some of those workers in the industry that's losing a lot of them?
What I can say positive about it is to make sure the individuals that are hired actually care about helping the individuals and not making it about money. Because when you can display empathy and put yourself in their shoes, then you will treat them the way you would like to be treated. And when you have that caring heart and you're just not looking in for a paycheck, it makes it work. That's positive, finding individuals that actually care.
But let me play advocate here. You start off with the good intentions, right? I'm myself. So I've also worked in activities, and in activities you get them up to move around and get circulation and going. You play music and games and different things. And what I started doing, because I do care when I'm working in those facilities, is I started bringing candy and giving candy here and giving candy there to the point the patients were looking for candy.
Mm-hmm.
Now I started something I shouldn't have. I had good intentions, but now I'm over a barrel. I put myself in that position. So I hear what you're saying. It certainly shouldn't be about money for people who really have the empathy. But what about those who really go above and beyond? Isn't that part of the burnout? Because you're doing more than your job description says, and you're doing more than, say, that the average CNA or caregiver is not going to do.
It is. I'm agreeing with you. And that's when you would have to look at the situation, the pros and cons of doing what you're doing. If the pros outweigh the cons, then stick with it. If it don't, then move on. Unfortunately, because it's best that you move on versus hurting people mentally, physically, emotionally. Because you may not mean to do it, but you may do it because you do have caregiver burnout. And these may be regrets you have to deal with the rest of your life. Understand what you can handle, what you can't handle. If it's too much for you and you know it's too much for you have to do what's best for you.
Because in the long term, it could disappoint and hurt people by doing that, by giving candy out, and then they're expecting it. It may hurt the situation.
Right, because your intentions are good, but if those are expectations, and there may be a situation where you may not be able to do that again, depending on what's going on in your life. So I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. A final word on it. When you look at the industry, is the lack of health care, or as the Dr. Leon said, more access to health care, going to bring people into the industry?
That's a good question because a lot depends on how they feel, what they bring to the table. Do they care enough about other people to do that?
Because you now in some ads they say, join us, we'll give you a $500 sign-in bonus, to incentivize you to come and work for them. But again, people are living longer. People don't have health care or the greatest health care.
Right.
What is that going to do to the industry in terms of caregivers? Because somebody, look, what people don't understand is the country. If you don't have health insurance, you can still go to the hospital because you have a right to health care. You just don't have a right to quality health care. In other words, they tape you up and send you on your way. So how's that will affect the caregivers?
It will put them in a bad situation. It will, those individuals at some point will become frustrated, will become angry, will feel helpless because they don't know what to do. But there are resources that will provide help. So it's out
Help
there.
the
You just have to do
patient.
the research. Yeah,
Oh,
such as respite, free of charge. It's out there to give that caregiver a break.
yeah. It's a tough situation right now because you want to help, but you got to help yourself as well. Um, and I know, myself included, in some cases, physically, you got to help yourself. So if you physically got to help yourself, you certainly can't help a patient if you got to physically help yourself. And that could be part of the frustrating part of caregiving as well. Janice, as always, I appreciate your time. Thank you for your insight. We appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
All right. Gary Norris Gray, I want to end with you. You were talking about some of the horror stories you hear about some of the main caregivers that um, you've heard of, because you only, I think you said, had one in 20 years. But the audacity of people who say they have empathy and then treat patients wrong. Now, there's some situations, especially when you're going to someone's home, like, and one of the things I'm sure Janice would agree with is you go there and you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a patient that it was basically cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
He was a heavy set man.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Vietnam vet. I mean, a vet, and he, because he was so big, he really couldn't get around. He had to use one of those scooters and different things. But part of my job was to clean and dust and get his food ready and that. But he would want me to wash his dishes or go to the grocery store. And again, like I was telling Janice, you try to be kind, but they wear it out.
Okay.
My job title is not to go wash your clothes
Yeah.
or go to the grocery store.
Okay. These are the rules that I have. I have certain rules. First of all, in the interview, you you ask each other questions. You have a set of responsibilities. You don't go outside that realm of responsibilities. You stay within that realm. No matter what each other was, you stay within that realm. Right? Once you go outside that realm of responsibilities, then you go into a gray area, right?
Mm.
And when you go into a gray area, you might go into problems.
But
I
the problem on the backside, if especially if you working for a small agency, they want you to just kind of take one for the team, and that's frustrating because it's not in your job description. But they're like, okay, some of them will tell the patient, look, LA's not, that's not in his job description. But others will ask you to turn the other way.
I see that's the difference between East Coast and West Coast. East Coast, they don't, they don't, they're very lax on the rules. West Coast, you better not go outside. You better not go outside the rules. You get fired for doing that. See, that's why I'm glad I moved out here because I couldn't deal with East Coast companies
Right.
because of their lack of responsibilities.
So you have an agency.
No, West Coast, you do it individually unless you can't, unless you're really disabled.
Right.
If you're independent, you do it on your own. You pick your own attendants. You pick your own workers. You find your own workers.
Right. And there are resources out there to do it.
Yes, yes,
The care and some other ones where you can get an individual and not have to go through an agency.
right.
But uh, you know, between that and the differences from state to state, like I said, North Carolina, man, I could find a job, any time, any place, working there at some point. Maryland's different. It's a lot more stricter, where they just you got to be certified in this and you got to be certified in that. Even mental health, they certainly mental health.
Mm-hmm.
There are differences in each state.
Also, the pay scale is different from state to state. Right? Um, Massachusetts has the highest pay scale at 25 hours an hour.
Right,
Whereas California has the lowest at $19 an hour.
right.
Everything is different. Everything has a different pay scale.
Yeah, and in Connecticut, I could go there and get a higher rate than some of the other places
Yeah.
in the South. So you're right about that. We're gonna touch on those areas in the weeks and the days and weeks and months to come. Final two questions for you, Gary. Um, my question to Dr. Leon was, what did the Democrats prove closing it down or helping close it down for 43 days, only to get a promise
Yeah.
for a vote that they may not have enough votes to even get the ACA back
Yep.
on the table.
All right. The Democrats play checkers. Republicans play chess. And we keep saying this. We keep saying this. The Democrats had Republicans over a barrel. They had over a barrel. And right where they wanted. And right where they wanted to. and let them go. And let them go. I don't know why I to this day I don't know why I let them go. Because it was the first time in years where Republicans had their feet to the fire.
I mean, if you look at some of the ones who voted to reopen, Tim Kaine.
Yep.
Why would Tim Kaine, who just saw Virginia just go completely blue,
Yep.
vote to reopen it?
All right.
Your own state is telling you we got them, and you go and vote to reopen it.
New Jersey, Illinois, California, Virginia, they all told Republicans, stop the voting list. This is what we want. And Republicans were at a dead end. And Democrats let them off the hook.
Yeah.
I am really angry at them right now. I'm angry at them because whenever I get an email from them, it's always give me money. Okay, I give you money and you do this? No, I don't know. Sorry.
And they're going to the firing squad because Trump, whether he wants to run for third term or not, is not on the ballot in 26. He doesn't care about the midterms.
Nope.
He doesn't care about 28. He just cares about his numbers right now, and they going down the road that they won't be able to come back. And that Fetterman, the Democrat in Pennsylvania, he needs to be out by a progressive Democrat there because he sounds like Joe Manchin, the fake Democrat from West Virginia. That's what he sounds like and acts like. But it's a dangerous thing that the Republicans are doing. I mean, not only the Epstein thing, which they just gonna bombard us with that. But the tariffs and everything else that they've been supporting Trump on.
Well, let me say this: that the Republican Party has no heart.
Nope.
And Democrats have no backbone. I finally come to that conclusion. They have no backbone whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, LA, Donald Trump is very slick, right? He always brings up the third term. I'm gonna run for a third term.
Steve Bannon working on it for him.
But when he does that, guess who comes into the picture? Barack Obama. He said, okay, you want to run for third term? Okay, come on, let's get it on.
Yeah.
Barack Obama was clean his crop. He was clean. They go third term.
And that's why he wants to get rid of the Affordable Health Care Act because it's Obama's. That's why he wanted to get rid of. Meanwhile, real quick, last political, Gavin Newsom, your governor, is all over the place. He was just at a meeting in Brazil about climate change, and he blasted Trump for not being there. He said, "I apologize as an American that our president took the cowardly role and did not come to this climate conference in Brazil." And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a guy like Gavin Newsom blasting them, but having a plan behind it. Can't just blast Trump and then have no plan.
The Democrats, they do not know how to play nasty. What I mean is, and Miss Barack Obama, when we go low, we go lower, or we go high, whatever that is.
It was Michelle. She said, when they go low, we go high.
That ain't gonna work anymore. Okay, that ain't working. Okay,
No.
because Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Final thing I wanted to mention that the passing of the late great Lenny Wilkins, and I
Yes.
think people think of Lenny Wilkins when he was a coach of Seattle. They won a
Yes.
title out there, and when he went to Cleveland and had some success, LeBron there. But the man was a baller too.
Yes, he was.
He
Yes,
can
he
play.
was.
He could shoot the hoop. He was one of the first black guards that would kind of fit in sort of the Earl the Pearl Monroe type guards. But your thoughts on Lenny Wilkins passing away?
Yeah, and that was one of the first people, one of the first guards that I watched regularly when I was a kid. I watched it because of the way he was, the way it's the old version of Stephen Curry. Lenny Wilkins is exactly what Stephen Curry doing now. So, but Curry has a better shot than Lenny did.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Yeah. And very soft spoken, but he demanded respect when he was a coach. I know that. And like I said, it's always a guy like that people forget how great of a basketball player he was. Forget the coaching and all that. He's got the numbers, but he was a damn good basketball player.
Yeah.
So.
And he will be missed because he was the second African American to win an NBA title.
Right.
Right. Out of the first one. Right?
With them Warriors, yeah.
That's right, the Golden State Warriors. It was 75, 75.
Mm-hmm.
And people forget that,
Right.
There were only two African American coaches for years in the NBA.
And Paul Tagliabue passed away from the NFL.
Yes.
He was there through the strikes and all that kind of stuff, and he really was the one that started having the NFL playing in these all countries. Roger Goodell took it to another level, but Paul Tagliabue was there with a lot of controversy. He took a lot of heat, but I thought he was a good commissioner.
Well, Tagliabue had a lot of things, but he could not deal with Oakland Raider Al Davis, right?
Yeah.
Al Davis was his mortal enemy, and Al Davis and Tagliabue had monster battles. I think if that relationship had been better, the Raiders would still be in Oakland, but because the relationship was so contentious, that's why Al moved the team to LA.
Yeah, and they probably will win some games if they stay in one place for Oakland, the LA, Las Vegas Raiders now. I mean,
Thank you.
All over the map. Gary, I appreciate you, man.
You take care, man.
All right. Gary Norris Gray. This bad boy. Remember, you can follow us on LA Batchelor or Pad Nation 1 on Facebook, Pad Nation 1. Subscribe at YouTube. The show, if you miss it, is on WJRG on Mondays from 6 p.m. to 8. And you can catch it on Spotify as well. Until our next show, thank you for checking in, and we will talk to you very, very soon.